This week on Entrepreneurs, we meet the founders who are changing the way we use, save and think about money. I'm Jack Delosa, and Entrepreneurs starts now.
This is Entrepreneurs.
Welcome to Entrepreneurs, where we talk directly to the founders of Australian businesses, from startups and small business owners to the icons of industry. On the show tonight, I am very excited about this panel. Angela Clark, the CEO of Beemit, an app for payments and Australia's first fintech venture. And I speak to a trio of young entrepreneurs who are focusing on the next generation of consumers and how they manage their money. Mario Hasakanakos, founder of kid-saving app Spriggy, Jessica Allam, founder of millennial superannuation business Zupa, and Nathan Tesla, founder of millennial debit card Wildcard. Mario, we are going to start with you. How are you?
Very good, Jack.
Good. Now, talk to us about the big idea around your app at the moment and the kind of traction that it's getting.
Well, we started with Spriggy on a simple idea that parents needed a better way to teach kids about money in a digital age. When we started, there wasn't a lot out there, and now more than ever, it's really hard for parents to teach kids about money. We can't really trust banks to do it, and credit card debt is ballooning. We wanted to build a way to help parents teach kids about money for a future where there won't be any cash.
And how does Spriggy work? What happens in the app?
Well, Spriggy's a mobile banking app that parents and kids use together. Parents can link any bank account and add funds onto their kid's card in real time. Kids get their own card where they get their pocket money. They can buy online or spend in store, and parents can see all those transactions and help them set up separate accounts for savings that's protected from spending, lock and unlock the card at any time, and keep their kids safe in a digital money world.
I absolutely love this idea. Do you get any pushback giving cards to kids?
Well, no, and that's because the whole system is designed right from the ground up to be something safe for families to use.
Right.
Parents can see all the transactions and they can lock and unlock the card at any time, so it's safe. They can, in the event that the kids lose the card or it's stolen, they can lock the funds, and they can even send funds in real time as well for when kids are away from home.
Mate, you guys have been getting some good traction lately. How many kids are using the app?
Yeah, it's great. It's been an awesome experience. We have 100,000 Australian kids using it.
Wow. Wow. And how do you make sure that mums and dads are involved as well, so that it ticks that box?
Well, both mum and dad, they get access to the app as well as the child. They can see what the kids are spending on, lock and unlock the card, help their kids save, and importantly, the kids get a login as well, so mum and dad can have a conversation. They can be as involved as they like, they can set and forget, or if they like, they can be right down in there seeing every transaction and talking to their kids about all the decisions they make.
So much of the power in this particular tool is probably just instigating that conversation, right?
Yeah.
More conversation, particularly between parents and children around money. It's a really healthy thing.
Yeah, in a world where we don't do enough of it.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. Nathan, welcome to Entrepreneurs.
Thank you.
Mate, you're building Wildcard, which offers a debit card and banking services for millennials. Talk to us about how that works.
Well, I think the important thing, if you want to understand how it works, is kind of to understand how millennials and people my age think about money. You know, the average person my age has a terrible relationship with their money. You know, I have friends who are professionals and have $14 in their savings account. I have friends who, you know, at the start of the month they'll get paid and they'll go and splurge on food and drinks, and they'll run out of money, and then they're desperately waiting for the next paycheck. You know, eating sad salads from Woolies and that kind of thing. And I noticed this amongst my friends a couple of years ago, and I thought there has to be a better way to do this. So I kind of came up with this idea of the first version of Wildcard, which basically said, why don't we just flip it around? Why don't we put all the money, the paycheck, straight into savings? And then why don't we just slowly drip it onto your card over the period of the month? And when we started testing it out, we actually found that this boom or bust mindset, people stopped doing that, and they started actually spending normally and actually saving money. And I think it's a big problem because people my age, you know, a quarter of us have nothing in savings. Most of us have like a negative net worth where we have more money in Afterpay and credit cards and stuff like that than we do in savings. So it's a big problem.
And do you think education can be part of that solution?
Well, I think financial literacy education is super important, and I really think we need to teach kids more about it in school. But, you know, for someone my age, I think that ship has sailed. And, average person in their 20s, they don't have a financial advisor, they don't, they're not in the stock market, they're not going to do a personal financial management course. The only thing they really use is their transaction account. So our theory is that if we can provide a service inside the transaction account that automates a saving and automates managing your money, that's going to be the way to have the most impact.
That's really good, mate. That's really good. Jessica, you started Zupa in 2017. Why do you think millennials need their own super product?
Well, I think you just have to look at the digital landscape today and realise how different some of our experiences are with multiple different products. And then when you turn to superannuation, it's like we've travelled back 20, 30 years, right? It just doesn't make any sense. So I think we started out just by saying, how could we create the most awesome digital experience for superannuation so it was relevant to millennials? And we knew that from there we could get them really engaged with it, and then we could further connect their values to their super and make sure that they understood where their money was going and what it was invested in. And I think that's just really transforming the whole way young people are starting to think about their money, especially their long-term savings.
Which is a great thing. What do you think the key differentiator is for Zupa versus the other super products that are out there in the market?
So the big differentiator is really around the topic of this panel, the future of money and connecting your values to what you invest in. I mean, lots of generations just can't wrap their heads around the idea that a return isn't just a dollar figure, it's also the return on the world that we live in. And I think more and more young people across the world, and increasingly here in Australia, want to know that their money is funding renewables, want to know their money is funding health and wellness businesses, and want to know their money is going into emerging technology. And that's exactly what we offer them.
How are millennials responding to the product so far?
Look, it's really interesting because a lot of naysayers will say you can never get young people interested in superannuation, but the reality is superannuation is money and people want choice and control over their money, and if you provide a very slick digital experience, takes them less than 60 seconds to sign up, they can find all their super wherever it is, and we know they have 3 or 4 accounts out there, then they're going to get engaged with it, and that's exactly what we're seeing.
I think financial literacy is such an important topic in this country right now, but sitting on the panel with the three of you, I'm all of a sudden an optimist, which is a good thing. Coming up after the break, what does the next generation want when it comes to money services? Stick around.
You're watching Entrepreneurs. Welcome back to Entrepreneurs.
Welcome back to Entrepreneurs. We are talking to our expert panel about the future of money and what it means to the next generation of earners, savers and spenders. Welcome back. Mario, what are the trends that you think we need to be mindful of when it comes to primary and secondary school kids managing money?
Well, the big one is our increasingly cashless economy.
Right.
And that's all even more true for young people than it is for us as adults. Everything kids want to buy and what they need to learn to resist is online these days. Any parent will tell you Fortnite is breaking their brain and breaking their wallet. And so having kids learn how to be able to resist the impulses to spend online and build good saving habits with digital money is such a key part of the world that our primary school and secondary school kids will grow up into.
Yeah, yeah. And Jess, your app obviously looks at millennials with superannuation. Are they thinking about superannuation? Do they care yet?
They certainly haven't been thinking before now, that's for sure. And a lot of that is to do with the way the industry has or hasn't spoken to them. It's kind of been a set and forget, go away, we've got this, come back in 60 years. But the problem is, of course, and it will be 60 years.
Which sounds so attractive, by the way.
The problem is, people, you look at any study, aren't on track to reach their retirement goals or have enough to live off. Compounded on that is the fact that people won't even own their homes when they get to retirement age. There's an increasing number of people like me who will be renting. So I think when you can actually connect people to their super now by saying it's not just something you get when you retire, it's money, it's in the world right now and it's doing stuff, take control of it and have a bit of a say about what it does. Not only do you get them engaged, but they start to go, oh, Matt, I should check this maybe once a month. Oh, am I on track? So you wedge open a door to a much bigger financial health conversation.
I love that. And Nathan, the old Australian dream of owning a house, owning a car, is that still the Australian dream or has it changed?
Look, I wouldn't say that the Australian dream is dead, but I would say that for a lot of people, the dream of home ownership doesn't really exist anymore. It's not even on our radar. If you've got $500 to your name and the average house in Sydney is $1 million, I mean, that's a big bridge to cross. But I think people my age are saving, but I think they're saving for different things. I think what I've seen is people saving a lot in cycles. So they'll save for a trip overseas, they'll save 3, 4, 5 grand, they'll spend it, they'll come back and they'll start again. So that saving muscle does exist, but you know, we're really focusing on different things, more about experiences rather than owning a house or a car.
That's great. Murray, you mentioned, you know, how just the usage of cash is changing. You know, what forms of transactions do we think are going to be most common in a few years' time?
Well, I think we're going to see more of the same, less and less cash acceptance, more and more tap and go. But it can really take off from here, Jack. I mean, you see some amazing things, like cash transactions have fallen by half in the last 10 years in Australia. In Sweden, less than 1% of transactions are in cash. In the United States, Amazon's Go experience in retail is you walk into a store, pick things off the shelf, and walk out, you don't pay, and AI and cameras figure out what you bought and bill your linked card. How we're going to spend is really going to change, and it's kind of less and less visible every day.
What do you guys think? The future of cash, are we going to see substantially less of it?
Definitely, without a doubt. Cash will be for the pirates and the poor people, you know. Cash will be for the people that are at the extremities of society. When I think about the future of money, I always go to this great quote by a big hero of mine in the fintech space called David Birch. And he says, we're going from money that we understand to money that understands us.
Right.
So at the moment, money is pretty dumb, right? At the most, it can observe what we do by seeing where we shop. But it doesn't know why we bought it. It doesn't know I was with Nathan. And I think this intersection of data and money is going to provide a completely different construct of what money is. And we need to remember that we've been at this cycle many times before. Money's been invented or reinvented countless times over history.
And what about savings and, you know, financial literacy? What do you all think about, you know, the requirement for more education in these fields?
Well, I think, you know, I was talking about that difference in the way that young people are saving. I think the muscle is there. I think the problem is that people don't see the value in longer-term savings. They're saving for, you know, the trip at the end of the year, but they're not thinking, well, what happens if I lose my job? What happens if something, you know, I don't have any money? And people really should be saving those small buffers. And that's a muscle I think we need to build, particularly amongst younger people.
And if we were to stretch our foresight, given that we've got 3, you know, money entrepreneurs on the panel, 10 years ahead, what are going to be the fundamental macro changes that people might not be envisaging right now?
Well, I think we always overestimate how quickly technology will be adopted, but we always underestimate the power of some of the changes. The mobile phone is a great example, right? I think 10 years from now, you know, I hate to say it for the crypto naysayers out there, but I think digital currencies will definitely become a lot more mainstream, and we'll see much more adoption. We'll also see different adaptations of that. So while we have, you know, nationwide currencies, I actually think we're going to get down to micro-level village-style currencies, and that's going to really transform the way we transact with each other.
Nathan, what do you see 10 years from now?
I think what we're seeing, you know, people are owning less and less, fewer and fewer cars. I think the same thing is going to happen with houses. I think we're going to look back at, you know, investing in property and think, and this is not a popular opinion, but we're going to think that's a crazy investment, right? No diversification, you're borrowing tons of money. That's, you know, it's crazy. So I think, and I think more and more as people my age aren't getting into that and aren't interested in that, I think that's where the trend is going to go.
That's an interesting distinction. Mario, if you had a crystal ball 10 years from now?
I think you're looking at it. I think technology has such a big role to play in becoming a really native element of our money lives. Money is kind of lagged behind so many other areas of our life. I love what Nathan said about an account that drips money in for you to spend, that you empower it to make that rule for you, but helps you achieve your goals. Spriggy's the same, a product that's developed especially for families and helps families achieve what they want to achieve, helping their kids learn good money habits and preparing them for a digital future.
And team, let me open another question to the panel. What do you guys think is the most common mistake you see in people managing their money?
Doing what their parents did.
And purely because the world has changed, so those tactics no longer work.
Absolutely. And we're just so sucked into this mentality that we have to buy a house, that we have to stay in a job, and it's kind of what society has expected of us. But I think millennials and Gen Z are totally breaking those norms now, and I think we've got to be confident to start doing that and experimenting.
And rightfully so, as you say. Nathan, do you see any key mistakes?
I think the biggest thing is people fiddling too much with it. Just set something up, set up a recurring transfer into your savings and just leave it. Don't touch it, don't play with it. Same with investing. If you're going to invest, don't pick the stocks. Just put it somewhere, leave it there. That's what I say.
Warren Buffett-esque. Love it.
In the making.
Yeah, exactly. I see Nathan as like part Warren Buffett, part Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
There's a bit of both coming through, right?
Beard.
It's not a...
Neither have a beard.
It's the Gen Y version. Mario, any common mistakes you see?
The easiest thing in the world, you just got to start early. I think more than anything, just being engaged from an early age makes a massive difference. Any financial literacy expert, me included, they'll tell you compound interest is the most powerful force in money. So if you start early, develop good habits early, start saving early, making these conscious choices about where you choose to spend and where you choose to save, that makes all the difference.
Dean, thank you so much for coming on the panel tonight. This is such a useful conversation, and I'm glad that we were able to do it so effectively.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. After the break, we have Angela Clark, CEO at Beemit, Australia's first fintech venture, founded collaboratively by leading Australian banks.
You're watching Entrepreneurs. This is Entrepreneurs.
Welcome back to Entrepreneurs. I'm joined by Angela Clark, the CEO and co-founder of Beemit, a new payments app startup that's backed by Westpac, NAB and Commonwealth Bank. This is a conversation I am very much looking forward to. Angela, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's Beemit, but we could boom it as well.
Did I say boom it?
You said boom it. I think it actually could be better, so I might go and...
That might be a slight rebrand we've just kind of engineered on the fly.
That sounds a lot more millennial. You were obviously influenced by the last panel.
They were good, weren't they?
Really, really good. I'm
optimistic about the future.
Yeah, no, very impressed. Yep.
Same with Beemit. Before we get into the story, which I'm fascinated by, talk to us about what is it, how it works.
It's basically a free payments app. It's instant, it's easy to transfer money to people. It kind of crosses over some of the themes that you were covering before. A lot of people are struggling to get paid, to keep track of their money and their finances. It's been working really well for a lot of millennials who are using it to request money, to get paid back. A lot of people are owed a lot of money by their friends and family and find that a bit of an awkward conversation. So a free instant service that's available to all Australians regardless of who you bank with. That's what Beemit does and enables for people.
I did download the app today and I was genuinely very impressed.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm sure you're a hard marker, so I'm very...
There you go.
Thank you, yes.
Equally as impressive is the story around this. You know, we're used to, firstly, fintechs competing with big four banks. We're used to big four banks competing with each other. This is a joint venture, as we said in the introduction, between Westpac, NAB, Commonwealth Bank. How on earth did that happen?
I think it's a real increasing appreciation that to do things that work really well for all Australians, and I think we're going to talk about it later about the way that where money is going, people want that experience seamless in all parts of their lives. It's something you're really going to have to do collaboratively more frequently, and not only did we found Beem collaboratively between three banks, the expectation is that we'll need to collaborate and partner to really extend that service and experience into other people's experiences, whether that's helping fintechs power their experiences or into other kinds of environments as we evolve the proposition from where it is today, which is a payments app, to do more things in the future.
And so you do see more collaboration in future between the big banks and the sort of burgeoning fintech industry and even amongst the big four banks?
Yeah, I think it sort of comes from me about, like, you know, you talk about other industries where things have become very interconnected, where experiences are going, they're becoming very interconnected, and where we see wallets going is they're becoming part of your life. So I think to execute on something that's really seamless and innovative and is really going to deliver real value to people, we're going to need to do that, and there's going to be more partnerships across industries. I think more partnerships with government, more partnerships with, for example, transport, you know, providers, etc. So there'll be a lot more partnership, I believe, in the future too, if we want to generate really transformative value for large groups of people in society, which is what we're trying to do.
And do you appreciate just how refreshing that might be for viewers at home, sort of seeing that come to fruition?
Well, we haven't delivered it yet, so that's the vision. So I think it is harder to execute on, than to just to say it. So it's something that we think will take a while for us to execute on, and we'd only be able to execute on it in collaboration with others. Is it refreshing? I don't know. I don't think maybe if you say it is, but it just seems a logical. Logical thing to
as you explained, it seems perfectly logical and organic. I suppose seeing collaboration between these, three banks being the Goliaths that they are, is hopefully indicative of more cooperation and partnership to come in the future.
Yeah, I think that is. I can't really speak for other things, but I think that is possible. I think it's also interesting that the idea of collaborating together and then sort of saying that is a separate entity that then exists to find its path in that ecosystem. I think that's also a good way of thinking about things. So, and that enables you to have more kind of flexibility and be able to innovate and iterate more sort of quickly, hopefully. Yep.
And as you saw me ask the panel about the crystal ball question, where do you see...
when you were asking that, it's like, I was going to say, can I say I don't have a crystal ball? Yeah.
But you must have some foresight in terms of where money and payments is going in the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, my good answer, if I had that amount of foresight, I would be I might be doing very many other things. I think I don't have any foresight on it. What I do think and what I'm really interested in, maybe that's more the point, what I'm really interested in is I think that people talk a lot about money, but I'm not sure, and we talk about how we want to help people educate them about money, but the reality is that money is not really what people are interested in. They're interested in what it can do for them, and it's always been a store of value in my mind anyway. So I'm really interested and excited by the idea that we're going to put back actually an understanding of the exchange of value, and it's about the experiences that it empowers. We're going to take kind of some of the false constructs away from it. So I want to do this, I want to do that. The payment happens more seamlessly in the background. Yes, you will know what happens with the money. You will be able to track it more because the technology will do more of that heavy lifting for you, but it will enable you to both enjoy the experience, to do some of the stuff that the panel was talking about, be more responsible about how you use money, but it will kind of disappear a bit. At the moment, it's quite pushed in front of us, and I think personally that's why a lot of people push back away from it, because it's not a real thing, and I think we need to get back to real things that are human things, and I think that's part of the vision of Beam as well, is to the payment sits underneath the experience. We're about trying to make it more social, more human, more natural.
That's very profound. What's the research...
Sorry.
What's that?
Way too philosophical, maybe.
No, I think it's spot on. As we were talking about on the panel, I think the conversation around money and literacy needs to be more widely adopted, and what you're saying is go below the surface level dollars and cents to actually talk about the human element of it to drive more conversation and adoption. What's the research telling us around how the different generations view money and payments?
Yeah, I think some of the stuff that we're seeing is very much aligned to what the panel was talking about. Millennials seem to have a real tendency not to... They may have got themselves into things that are credit products they don't realise are credit products, but generally have more debit orientated. They do seem to have a lot of difficulty keeping track of their savings. So one of the reasons that Beamit's been really great for millennials is requesting and getting payments and keeping track of their finances, etc. So it does seem that that generation has some different relationships to money. So that's been really interesting. But they are also, because they're early adopters, they are also taking other generations with them into, like, hey, money doesn't have to be so complicated. Come and join my world. It's much cooler and much more fun and much easier in my world. And, you know, boomers and X's like me are, you know, we're getting on board, because anything that makes our lives easier and better, that's cross-generational.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Angela, thank you so much for coming on tonight. We are definitely cheering you on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.
That's all for tonight. Next week we decode money with guest host Holly Stevens, who is an absolute rock star, talking how to decode blockchain technology and cryptocurrency in business. The answers may surprise you. Make sure you do not miss that one. You can watch us anytime on Foxtel Go and the catch-up section of yourmoney.com.au. I'm Jack Delosa. Thank you for joining us.